Well, hello everyone out there in the football world. I am Sanders, your host of the Head Couch Analyst Show, and as normal, I am joined by my co-host Pardue. How you doing today, man?
Hanging in there, man. First things first, I just want to apologize to our regular audience that we didn't get episode up last week. Both Sanders and I had a pretty busy week and a lot of, personal issues that kind of came up. So sometimes that's just how life goes. We had to take a break, but we're back this week and we're hoping to give you I think this is going to be a pretty good episode.
I think it's going to be a pretty good episode, too. We got a lot to talk about. So because we have a lot to talk about, we're just going to jump right into it a minute before we're even in, because usually we don't start till 3 minutes in. But here we are, 50 seconds. So I got the talking points this week. So I think this is probably going to be like 20 to 30 minutes long. I'm not sure. But I want to talk about the AFC as a whole and the AFC playing field. I know we covered this last time, but we kind of covered it not really knowing what was going to happen with every team, considering they were all like 6-3 and 6-4 like that. The AFC playoff picture is both muddier and much clearer at the same time, if that makes sense, right? Like, for example, the Cleveland Browns, I feel like at this point are a lock to make the playoffs. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
100%, right?
Yeah. Most definitely. I even have something about them in our Passing from the Couch segment later that I think is going to shock some people, because I think they're actually I remember last year I said, oh, wow, I got on the Browns hype train last year like everybody else did. And Loser. I ended up, exactly. And so this year I was like, okay, they'll probably just end up being
I was telling you to get on it this year.
Right. And I was like, I'll wait. And they've exceeded my expectations for sure. And and then there's still those people who just want to hate on the Browns because the Browns are like, oh, they're still a really bad team. I'm like, nah.
No, they can only run the ball.
They're one of the very best teams in the AFC right now. They can only run the ball thing, and then Baker Mayfield lights up the Titans last week. So.
Oh yeah, dude, it was murder.
Didn't he throw 5 touchdown passes?
4. So here's the thing I want people to calm down on. So I've been very pro Cleveland, right? And I just said, hey, I think they're a lock, right? But let's ground back some reality for a second. I think the only reason, and I think it's impressive, right? You're both 8-3. That's a playoff style game, right? You're playing for seeding at this point. And you win in a relatively dominant fashion. I know the score says 41-35, but this game was 35, 31-7 at one point, right? The Browns don't know what to do with the lead. They've never been in that position. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they quote-unquote threw away their lead, I'm going to give them a pass for. But I want to roll back on the whole, Baker thing. Not because I'm a Baker hater. I loved what I was seeing in time, but when you think about it, okay, the Titans don't have a pass rush, and Baker's always been really good when there's no pass rush. So when he plays the Ravens and the Steelers in the 2 of the next 4 weeks, and maybe even the Giants, I'm not so sure he has those repeat performances, right? But I do like that in a playoff environment we saw Baker light it up, right? Now, what we need to see from him continuing forward, and if it doesn't happen this year, I'd like to see it next year, is Baker Mayfield perform when he's under pressure. That's the next step. All right, dude, you've proven that you're a franchise-type quarterback. You've proven that you can win against good teams. You've proven that you can be coached under Kevin Stefanski when a coach knows how to coach you. Now can you take it the next step and say, hey, when the team needs me to win the game, even though we're in a losing situation, I can do that. He hasn't done that yet, right? So that's
he hasn't had to.
Yeah, right. No, he hasn't had to, right? So that's the next step. Can you do that, right? And to be fair, a lot of people can be like, well, you're a Ravens fan. Isn't that the same thing for Lamar? Yes. 100% yes. That is still the question for Lamar is, can he do that? Because every time the Ravens have won, they've always been ahead and stayed ahead, right? The only comeback victory they've ever done has been with 7 points or less. They did it against the Colts 2 weeks ago. So they've had, comeback victories in the second half, but it's never been a situation where I think Lamar has been made super uncomfortable, right? And Baker really hasn't been in that situation. So let's see, these two AFC quarterbacks. Let's see Lamar get riled up, see if he can still win. We still need that question answered. And now I'm asking that of Baker because this is a real team. But come playoff time, you got to play the Chiefs. You got to play the Steelers. And I understand they play the Steelers week 17. But whether you win that game or not, and that might be for the division, who knows, right? But whether you win that game or not, winning the division isn't the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's nice. It's a home playoff game, but the goal is once you're in the dance, can you keep winning 3 in a row? So that'll be my question going forward, and I guess it's a question we really won't get answered until January.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I want to see is can Baker do that, and then we'll see how we grade him for there. Either way, I'm impressed with the Browns. I like them. For me, even though they haven't quote unquote locked the seed yet, they're 100% in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I think this is kind of curious. The Chiefs are the only team to have locked a playoff spot. The Steelers have not because they lost to Washington. The Steelers are a lock as well, I would say.
Yeah,
right?
They're 11-1.
Yeah.
There's no way they're not going to make it with 11 wins, right?
Yeah. So how about this? Are the Bills a lock to make it?
At this very moment, I mean, if you were to tell me, if you were to say, like, gun to my head right now, I would say yes. This week's matchup will tell a lot because if I remember correctly, let me double check. Yeah, they're playing Pittsburgh this week.
Yep.
If the Bills win this week, which they very much can, don't get me wrong, I really like the Steelers. I think they're a good team. I think they're an extremely well coached team, but they're also very beatable. I definitely think Buffalo could beat them. I mean, if you beat the Steelers and you're at 10 wins with 3 games to go, it's going to be pretty hard for you to get kicked out of the playoffs at that point, in my opinion.
So, spoiler alert, I was actually going to pick the Bills to win this Sunday night, whether the Steelers were undefeated or not. When I was looking at
I also was going to pick them.
When I was looking at their schedule, and I was debating on one of my Hail Marys being the Steelers going undefeated, and I was like, I think the Steelers lose to the Bills. Right? I thought at worst Pittsburgh was going 13-3 and at best 15-1 with them the one loss being to the Bills. The Bills just reminded me of a team who's going to punch them in the mouth and beat them. Now the Bills aren't perfect, right? I mean,
right.
They were struggling against San Francisco just 2 nights ago at first, and then they got rolling along and stomped San Francisco. Mm-hmm. But the Bills are definitely a team that doesn't scream dominant to me, right? They're just a really, really solid team. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would have picked them to win. But either way, the Steelers are locked to make it. And because they're beating the Steelers at that point, or I'm thinking they will, not they will, but I'm thinking they will, at that point, they're in for me. So this is where we start to get to the nitty-gritty, okay? Right? Let's talk about the Titans. At this point, do the Titans make the playoffs?
Remind me what their record is at right now.
So they're at 8-4. They have tiebreakers over the Colts for the division. If the Colts overseed them in the division, okay, they don't have tiebreakers over the Browns. They have tiebreakers over Baltimore, and I do not know the tiebreakers against the Dolphins or Raiders because they haven't played each other. So I would have to look farther into that one.
I guess for me, because I really like the Titans. Mm-hmm. I do. I wouldn't say they're like my second team or anything. I was born in Tennessee, but I've always liked the Titans. I really like Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry's a monster. I love A.J. Brown.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do. And no, I would say they're a playoff team. They're playing Jacksonville this week, and I think, spoiler alert, if this really is one, I think the Titans win that game this week pretty handedly. And that would put them at 9-4. And at 9-4 with 3 games left, I know that playoff picture in the AFC is tight, but with the tiebreakers that they have, especially over the Ravens, I think that's a really big deal for them. So for me, as long as they win this week, which, I mean, would be a real shocker if they didn't, I would say they're a lock.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think the Titans go 3-1 in the rest of their schedule because they play the Jaguars, Lions, Packers, Texans, and they lose to the Packers. Mm-hmm. And I know, we always say, hey, Packers can't beat physical football. I think the Packers can beat the Titans because you don't have to get physical with the Titans. You can just say, you want to run Derrick Henry? Cool. We're going to throw over your secondary because your secondary can't cover us, right? So all the Packers will say, cool, you want to run against our defense? That's fine. We're going to have Aaron Rodgers throw for 400 yards and 4 TDs and, screw you over. By the way, that is a Sunday night game, Titans-Packers.
Yes.
It's the day after Christmas. Let's go.
We're getting some pretty good, primetime games in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, dude, we should. We've had fucking nothing this whole season for prime time, I feel.
Yeah, no. This December football, this is gonna be a really good December for the NFL. While my Cardinals are kind of in a shaky situation, I'm really nervous at how these next 4 weeks are going to go. And honestly, I'm not sure how confident I am. You know what? At least my team is going to be playing meaningful December football, and just the way the rest of the league is shaping up, it's going to be a good December.
Yeah, it should be. All right, so I guess we got the Titans making it, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams. Do the Titans win the division? I think they win the division because they already have the tiebreaker over the Colts.
Yeah, I think with the tiebreaker already over the Colts, I think it would take in any situation.
And the other thing
at this point in the season where you need other teams' help is never good. So for me, yeah, I would say the Titans are probably going to lock up that division.
Yeah, and the other thing is the Colts play the Raiders and the Steelers. That is much harder.
Mm-hmm.
They play the Texans and the Jaguars as well, but their next 2 games are the Raiders and the Steelers. That's much harder, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was a betting man, I'd bet on the Titans. All right, so we got the Browns making it. Right, so we got 5 teams so far in the AFC that we think are going to make it, which means we get down to the 6th seed and the 7th seed and the nitty gritty, and we got, I would say, technically the Broncos and Texans are not mathematically out of it, but I'm kicking them out. Because that would require the Dolphins and Colts losing the rest of their games and the Broncos winning the rest of their games. That's not happening. So realistically, we got 2 seeds left, the 6th and the 7th seed, right? And we've got the Dolphins, Colts, Raiders, Ravens, and I'm going to include Patriots. At this point, they were 2-5, dude, and they're now 6-6. And I got a segment on them from Passing from the Couch, like, Bill Belichick is doing a hell of a job right now with one of the worst. I don't get it, man. I really don't. Actually, I know why it's happening, but like it just blows my mind. Anyways, we'll talk about them later. So, Dolphins. Do the Dolphins make it?
They're sitting at 8-4 as well right now.
Yep, they got the Chiefs, Patriots, Raiders, Bills. They have the hardest schedule of these 4 teams.
Mm-hmm. Chiefs, Raiders, Patriots, Bills.
That is tough.
Honestly,
that is tough.
I could definitely see them. I think at best they go 2-2 in that stretch, but I see 1-3 to be quite honest.
I'm thinking 1-3, right?
And it's no knock on the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are a really good football team, and I think Brian Flores is a great coach.
Oh yeah.
But with how muddy the AFC is and how the tiebreakers are working, if you go 1-3 in December,
9-7 is what you finish.
Right, it's not looking good for you in the AFC. I honestly don't think there will be a 9-win playoff team in the AFC. I think you got to get to 10.
This is very much a playoff environment for the Dolphins. So here's my take on this, right? This is very much a playoff environment for the Dolphins. And I said this when we talked about them going from Tua to Fitzpatrick, right? I think Tua to Fitzpatrick is fine. It's been working out, right? And it's been going pretty decently. However, you can't expect to win the Super Bowl that year because A, rookie hasn't done it, and B, rookies usually don't do well in playoff games. It's very rare that it ever happens, right? And even when quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Joe Flacco, and I can't remember any other rookies that have gotten to the divisional or NFC round since then. Did Andrew Luck get to the divisional round as a rookie?
If I remember correctly, he was a first-round exit. I don't think so.
I don't remember.
I might be wrong.
But either way, quarterbacks who do really well their rookie year, so Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, Joe Flacco. I'm just like trying to think of all. There's not many in the last 15 years, but they all don't do well even if they win. Like the Seahawks won, but Legion of Boom and Marshawn Lynch, right? The Ravens got all the way to the AFC Championship, but Ray Rice, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, stacked defense and a great running game, right? And they also had Marvin Harrison, I believe, on as a wide receiver as well. late in his career from the Colts. So, Joe Flacco had a Hall of Fame wide receiver. So, credit to, Flacco, Luck, and Wilson for doing those things, but they were carried, to their spots, right? They just played game managing football as rookies. I don't see this Dolphins team carrying Tua through Chiefs, Bills, or what is essentially a playoff gauntlet at this point, right?
Right.
And now that they play New England again, Belichick's got a second read. Yeah, I don't like those odds. I don't like those odds, right? I see 1-3, but I see 1-3 where they lose to the Chiefs, Bills, Patriots, and beat the Raiders. Mm-hmm. That's what I see, right?
Yeah, that's what I would think as well. And it's no it's no disrespect to Dolphins, and it's no disrespect to Tua. Again,
it's just a situation.
Right, and I've said I personally didn't like the move to Tua and the time, and I mean I'm still not the biggest fan of it, to be quite honest. And it's not because I think like Ryan Fitzpatrick is better or anything. I just think I don't know. I just didn't think it was the right time, and I mean Ryan Fitzpatrick was winning at the time, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I mean, even the Dolphins have come back on their heels a little bit and benched him at least once in a game. I know that.
Well, they benched him because he had the sprained thumb, right?
No, they benched him because he was playing bad.
I thought Brian Flores came out after and said we benched him because of his thumb injury, and then he was held out the week after because of his thumb injury.
You might be right. I know I saw conflicting reports either way, but even then, like I still wouldn't trust a rookie given the magnitude of what this
I'm with you.
Final month means. I wouldn't trust a rookie.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. So. As of right now, I think we are kicking the Dolphins out. However, I would like to say this is a really good team, and don't consider me surprised. By the way, I'm imagining 1-3 where they lose to the Chiefs, Patriots, Bills. There is a situation where they go 3-1. I don't think they're beating the Chiefs, okay? But they can beat the Patriots, they can beat the Raiders, and they can beat the Bills. They can beat all three of those teams. So there is a 3-1 situation where they finish, 11-5 and make the playoffs. I am not saying they can't, right? But as of right now, we're saying they won't. That could change.
Right.
And this all depends, how do the Raiders perform in the future? Do the Patriots fall off the face of the earth? Whatever it may be. Colts. Do the Colts make it?
I like where they stand in terms of their tiebreakers. They're playing the Raiders this week, which, the Raiders. I've kind of come back on my heels a little bit about how I feel about the Raiders over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, dude, you can't be almost losing to the Jets.
Right. So, I don't want to spoil picks right now, but I like the Colts matchup this week. And again, I think if you get to 9 wins with 3 to go, I think it's really hard, especially with how good their defense is, to kick them out. I would say they're in.
Okay. So we're putting the Raiders in at what? They play the Colts, Chargers, Broncos, Dolphins. I would say at worst 9-7, 10-6.
Again,
not the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders are the Colts.
I meant to say the Colts. My bad. Sorry. I was looking at the Raiders schedule because we were also talking about the Raiders. No, Colts. So they play the Raiders, Steelers, Texans, Jaguars. So I guess they get in at, let's see, what are they, 8-4 right now? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're saying 10-6, 11-5.
I would say, and I think 10-6 is fairly feasible for the Colts for sure. That's 2-2 in the Final Four. And with that defense, that's pretty doable. And again, I think it's going to take 10 wins to get into the playoffs in the AFC, and I think the Colts have the opportunity to do that. And with their tiebreakers, it sets them up well.
I would agree with that. So we got the Colts in. This is where the nitty-gritty really gets in here. Let's talk about the Raiders here. I'm going to put my opinion first on this one. I don't think the Raiders are actually going to make it. I think they're going to be out at 9-7. I think they're going to lose probably to the Colts, and the Dolphins, and then beat the Chargers and Broncos. And so they have a winning season, but it's not enough just yet.
It's hard in the AFC right now, man, and I'm right there with you. And it would be really unfortunate too, because the Raiders have honestly had a pretty damn good season. They've had some letdowns and some inconsistencies, but I'll admit it, I was kind of on the Raiders hype train. Like, I thought they were a pretty damn good team, and I was getting excited for them. And it seemed like last year too, it was the exact same thing. They started off pretty hot. I'm pretty sure, didn't they start like 6-4 last year? And then in the second half, they basically just fell off and then just missed the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember we had a bet on it, and I got free wings out of you for it.
Yeah. And then it looks like the same thing's going to happen this year, to be quite honest.
So, yeah, and I don't think this is like anything against Green. I think this team just needs a little more, because it's competing, right? It is 100% competing, but I think it needs just a little more, right?
It needs a couple more pieces to push them over the edge for sure.
So, I got them at 9-7. I don't think they're going to make it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. 9-7, they barely miss.
Okay, so that means our last seed, what I'm assuming is going to be the 7th seed, maybe depending on tiebreakers, it's the 6th seed, right? But either way, the 7th team between the Ravens and the Patriots. Now, let's examine their schedules first. So for the Patriots to do this, by the way, the Patriots need Baltimore to lose at least one more game, the Raiders to lose at least one more game, and the Patriots have to go undefeated the rest of the way. Okay, so let's look at the Patriots' schedule. It's not easy. They play the Rams tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. They play the Dolphins. Then they play the Bills. And then they finish with the Jets. By the way, they play the Bills in primetime. So you got to ask yourself, does this Bill Belichick team that started 2-5 and is now 6-6, so 4-1 in the last 5 games, have they found their winning formula, and do they make a run against the Rams, Dolphins, Bills, and Jets? Do they make a 4-0 run?
Right. I see a scenario in which it happens, but to be quite honest, I think that roster is not good enough to make a 4-0 run. Cam Newton is not good, like, straight up.
No, but he fits the style, right? Good. They need him just to be a quarterback who can throw at times, which he's done, and he needs to be a running QB. This is a running system, right?
Now, while that is true, yes, I do not trust that alone with their lack of talent to win 4 straight games, especially against their opponents.
I don't disagree with you at all. I'm just trying to, like, play devil's advocate over here.
Right, and I get it. And like, the only reason I'm even, like, barely thinking, like, that it's a possibility is just because it's Bill Belichick and he's going to put his team in the best position to win. But there's only so much coaching can do, and I know it's Bill Belichick, and that's a lot, but there's only so much coaching can overcome when it comes to how poor your talent is, and vice versa.
So I want to give you a reminder, by the way, right? They beat the Dolphins week 1. They lost on the last play to the Seahawks week 2. They beat they beat the Raiders handily, 36-20. They had a really, really tight game with the Chiefs and Patriots. They proceeded to lose to the 49ers and Broncos. Okay. Then they lost to the Bills in a very tight game. They lost on a field goal. They beat the Jets. They beat the Ravens after. They lost to the Texans in overtime. They beat the Cardinals after, and then they just slammed the Chargers 45-0. This is a team with a lot of inconsistency, but I can't help but wonder, with them winning, 4 of their last 5, did they figure it out? Did they figure out what makes this team click? Like, these are our weaknesses, these are our strengths, this is how we play to our strengths, right? That's all I'm asking.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think this Patriots team has changed in, like, with the flux and flow of this season more than any other team. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily difficult to put a finger on them at this point, but I would say that team is a chameleon. Does that make sense?
I mean, haven't the Patriots always been chameleons? They adapt to whatever's going on.
Right. But even more so this year because of their lack of talent, I would say Bill Belichick is really showing why he's one of, if not the greatest coach of all time. Because that roster's terrible. You put any other coach in his shoes, that's probably a 4 or 5 win team at best. Honestly.
I probably agree with you. So while we're on the topic of the Patriots, I want to ask you this, okay? Do you think Belichick doesn't care about this year? I mean, obviously he's coaching them up, and obviously he's playing to win, because that's what you do as a coach. But do you think internally he's treating it more of as just a job this year? Because if you notice in his interviews, he's more blunt and he's more honest. Like, he doesn't give Belichickian answers. He tells you what's been on his mind lately. And I can't help but wonder if Belichick watched what happened with Cam Newton, right? COVID happened, can't play. Just last night, COVID happened, Des Bryant couldn't play. Suddenly the game plan changed for Baltimore, right? COVID happened to the 49ers. Suddenly they couldn't play. You notice how, like, literally, and I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist on this one, if COVID happened to Patrick Mahomes the night before the Super Bowl, they wouldn't say it. They 100% would not say it. They wouldn't delay the Super Bowl.
Right.
They would let Patrick Mahomes play, and then 4 days later they'd be like, "Oh, he tested positive." Right? It would 100% happen. Sorry for being a conspiracy theorist, but it would 100% happen. There's too much money for the Super Bowl to be played that day, and you can't have a backup going out there on Super Bowl day if he's quote unquote healthy to play, right? Or physically able to play, I should say. Yeah, if he's just showing like a slight headache, they're gonna say, "Get over it, go play. We'll deal with it later." But I can't help but wonder if Belichick said, "Man, I lose my starting quarterback just cause, right? Oh, I lose. Let's say I get to the playoffs and suddenly I lose my star, corners just cause, right? It happened to the Broncos, right? They lost all their quarterbacks. I can't help but wonder if Belichick in his mind is like, I can't play my way because I have no idea what's going to happen, right? Belichick is always just controlling things, so I can't help but wonder if he just doesn't care as much about this year because it's not in his control like it has been in previous years. And I'm not making a cheating joke when I say in control. I'm saying, like, he can't control whether his players are going to be on the roster or not game day. What do you think?
Right. Like, I get what you're saying. I do. But I think just – and, I mean, like, you mentioned how he's, like, more blunt. I'm not sure how much more blunt you can get being Bill Belichick. Personally, in my honest opinion, I don't think much has changed. I think because like I get it, I see what you're saying.
He's not being vague with his interview questions. Like, he's actually answering questions, right? He's not doing the on to Cincinnati thing. He's not doing the how'd you feel about your players today? They played well. Like, he's not doing that. He's actually saying, well, Newton's doing this and doing that. Like, he's actually saying his thoughts, which he's never done before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And the other... Sorry, go on.
I mean, in the grand scheme, like, I get it, and I got love and respect for Belichick, don't get me wrong, but I still think...
Ooh, so he went off for a second. We'll go back to what he's thinking to say. So all I was basically saying was I feel like... I feel like since Belichick has decided, may have internally decided since he can't control this year, and he doesn't have to coach for his job or anything like that. He doesn't have to sit here and say, hey, I have to win or I'm fired, right? If he has a losing season, no one cares. He's had so many Super Bowls. So, sorry, I was going on Pardue because you cut out for a second. But what I was telling our audience was, since he doesn't have to play for his job, like some other coaches have to play for their jobs. And since he doesn't, if he doesn't win a Super Bowl this year, right, or if he doesn't make the playoffs, like, who cares? Right? So what were you saying about how you feel about Belichick?
Because, again, like I said, I think he's a great coach and all, and I see where you're coming from, and I see what you're saying, but just in the grand scheme of what the situation is in the AFC, I just think that roster itself is too talent deficient for even Bill Belichick to carry it to 4 straight wins, given the magnitude of how the AFC is set up right now, for the Patriots to be a playoff team this year.
And it relies on both the Raiders and Ravens losing one more game, right?
Right.
Possibly 2, depending on how tiebreakers work. All right, so that leaves our last team to talk about, which is the Baltimore Ravens. So we still have not filled the 7th seed yet. Does that mean they take the 7th seed then, if we're not giving it to the Raiders or Patriots?
Honestly, I don't feel good about it, but
I look at their schedule and I kind of do.
Right, and that's what I was about to bring up. Is I think they have the most favorable schedule out of the teams that are trying to squeak in, and I think that's what's going to help them the most. If I were to pick any of the teams in the AFC that are just fighting for the final spot, I'm probably going to take the Ravens.
So, being non-biased here for a second, okay? I don't know what my pick is yet. I keep going back and forth, but they play the Browns next Monday night, and I won't be surprised if they lose that. Okay, so they're 7-6 at that point. They play the Jaguars, they're winning that game, 8-6. They play the Giants. Well, that's not a guarantee. Let me tell you, it's not a guarantee. But right. I feel like they should beat the Giants, right? Even if it's not a guarantee. So that would put them at 9-6, and then they're gonna beat the Bengals. So that's 10-6, right? Which would be more than the Raiders 9-7 and whatever the Patriots finish as. So they get in at the 7th seed. I personally would love this because I really want to see a Steelers-Ravens matchup again because I think we can actually beat them this time around. And it would be so sweet if in a year where I will admit I've been a massive Steelers defender this whole year. I have been. But the fan base is also kind of annoying this year about it. So I'd love to just punch him in the mouth wild card weekend.
I mean, to be fair, if I was a Steeler fan and prior to this week I was 11-0 and teams are saying, "Oh, this is the worst undefeated team of all time," I'd be a bitch about it too.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I've been defending them, right?
Right.
So you beat who's in front of you. That's what you're supposed to do, and if you're doing your job, then who cares? Right. So I guess Ravens at 10-6 for the 7th seed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would probably say so.
I would say the only thing that might make between the Raiders and Ravens at that point is if the Ravens lose to the Giants. And then they'd both be 9-7 at that point. Mm-hmm. Dude, wouldn't that be crazy? We'd have 7 seeds and a 9-7 team still doesn't make it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's why they expanded the playoffs. And I mean, it's unfortunate for those teams, but I mean, you can only cater to the really good teams so much. Because I don't think the playoffs should be expanded anymore from here. Because if you do it more from here, that means more than half the leagues making the playoffs, and I think
it would be exactly half.
Or yeah, you're right. It would be exactly half. I'm thinking, for some reason, I was thinking there was only 30 teams. There's 32. Yep. So it would be exactly half. And at that point, I think if they were to extend it by one more team each conference, that's where you absolutely have to stop. I don't want to see it get extended again because then I think that takes away the exclusivity of making the playoffs.
I also think
in a way
we'd have some trash games because if you go back some years, because you'd have number 1 versus number 8, dude. What a horrible playoff game. I mean, it'd be amazing at the upset, right? But for the most part, what a horrible, horrible matchup it would be. Horrible. Right. No, thanks, right? So I think 2-7's fine. You get the number 1 seed, you get a bye. I think that's all fair.
I'd agree.
So, yeah, there's the AFC talk that we got here. So, I guess as of right now, we, the Head Couch Analysts, have Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Tennessee, Cleveland, Indianapolis, and Baltimore making it. But honestly, I could see Las Vegas or Miami squeaking in there instead of Baltimore or even Indianapolis. That Colts-Raiders game looms very large.
Mm-hmm.
It looms very large. And what sucks for the Colts is if they lose to the Raiders, they don't have tiebreakers against the Raiders, and they don't have tiebreakers against the Ravens, and they don't have tiebreakers against the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
They've effectively played themselves out at that point if they lose that. Alrighty. So speaking of playoffs, let's talk about the NFC's number 7 seed. Okay. And I'm not going to include the Bucs in this conversation, even though the Bucs are 7-5, and the number 7 seed is 6-6 right now. And they're only 1 win ahead. The Bucs are going to have, I feel, the 5th or 6th seed. So I'm going to leave it at that. Keep it a buck with you guys. Leave it at that. The NFC 7 seed is essentially down to, I mean, it's weird. It's really weird. So right now the Vikings have the number 7 seed. Right? They hold the tiebreakers. At least I'm on NFL.com's website. They have the Vikings as the number 7 seed right now. So they hold the tiebreaker. The Cardinals are at number 8. At 9, 10, 11, and 12, at 5 and 7, just 1 game behind the Vikings and the Cardinals, are the Bears, Lions, 49ers, and Washington. Me personally, I feel like the Bears and 49ers should not be in this discussion at all.
Yeah, I would agree. I think at this point, given that there's only 4 weeks left, there's only 4 games left, that... And with the way those teams are in terms of deficiencies and the way they played all season, they're pretty much out of it, especially the Bears.
Dude, how do you blow it to the Lions?
Yeah. And I just think the 49ers have too much to overcome, and it's winning time in December, and I just don't think the Niners have the roster with all their injuries and just everything that's gone on with that team this season.
So let me give a justification for the 49ers, even though I want to throw them out. This Sunday is their season, by the way, because they play Washington. Washington's at 5 and 7 too. Whichever team loses, you're done. You're done, right? So your season starts this Sunday for Washington and the 49ers, and I personally am picking Washington for that game. I've been picking Washington a lot recently. Whether I've liked the team this whole time, dude. Even when they've been losing, I'm like, I like this team. Like they're just slightly better quarterback play away. And what do you know? The last few weeks they've gotten some better quarterback play. But I feel like Washington beats them and erases the 49ers, which is why I'm kicking them out. But on a technicality, if they beat Washington, the 49ers have to play the Cowboys, Cardinals, and Seahawks, and those all 3 are winnable games for the 49ers. I would say beat Washington, and we very much can talk about the 49ers being in this conversation, right? Lose to Washington, you're done.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I hate to be spoiling so many picks, but I'm picking Washington this week too, because just that defensive line is so monstrous, and yeah, and that's pretty much it. Like, and this Washington team's playing really well. Antonio Gibson's really rising to the occasion and proving that he's one of the best rookies.
Alex Smith is playing mistake-free football like he always has. Like, he's gotten back into a groove. Like, you could see in the last 2 weeks that Alex Smith has gotten more synergy with his offense, right?
And like, he's quietly having almost 300 yards passing every single game.
Shoot, I know like 5 weeks ago we said we didn't want to give Alex Smith comeback player of the year because that'd be cheesy, but at this point,
100%
it's 100% him, right? So and the Bears, I'm sorry we've been Bears haters for the last like 6 weeks, but when they were 5-1 post week 6, I guaranteed they weren't making the playoffs. 6 losses in a row later, yeah, I'm guaranteeing they're not making the playoffs. You blew it to the Lions. I don't need to say anything. They suck.
Right. Yeah.
So
we've kind of been on that train all season.
Then let's talk about I'm going from lower tier to upper tier, by the way. Let's talk about the Lions in the Washington. Let's talk about the Lions trails to essentially get in at 8-8 or 9-7 is what I'm going to say the 17 is going to be. Would you agree? Maybe 10-6, but at that point the Lions don't make it.
Right, and
I think the Vikings and Cardinals have shown way too much inconsistency to guarantee 10-6 for either team.
Right, and I think 8-8 is a stretch. I think you probably got to get to 9 wins. But I mean, then again, because like I think it's between the Vikings and the Cardinals, and I could see both of these teams going 2-2, and it's between them. It honestly is.
So I think I'm going to take the Lions out of this situation because they play the Packers, Titans, Buccaneers, Vikings 4 in a row. That is it's a gauntlet, and a gauntlet I don't think you win. Yeah,
that's rough.
That is super rough because like it is there, right? It is 9-7 is there for the taking for the Lions, right? But no head coach, which they're probably better off without Patricia, honestly. But like no head coach, you have the Packers, Vikings, Buccaneers, and Titans. That's rough. I'm gonna have to take the Lions out of the equation too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. At this point, so we've taken the Bears, Lions, and 49ers out. At this point, we've got Washington, Arizona, and Minnesota. All right, so let's look at Washington because I would say they're the next like down. They're like less than Arizona and Minnesota at the moment, right? I love them to death, but you know, let's look at this. So Washington plays the 49ers this week. They play the Seahawks the following week, and then the Panthers and the Eagles. That looks 3-1 to me. Maybe 4-0 if you beat Seattle. That looks 3-1 to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's probably 3-1. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So we're thinking the Washington football team probably ends 8-8?
I would say that's fair, and that is probably going to end up being enough to win your division.
Yeah, because I love the Giants this year, but they got the Ravens, Browns, Cardinals, and Cowboys. 3 of those 4 teams are tough for the Giants.
And now, no disrespect to the Giants, though, part of this is I have a $50 bet that the Giants are going to finish higher in the division than Washington. And that's why I really needed Washington to lose to the Steelers this week, and that didn't happen. I was really banking on that. So
that's why you said pain. That's why you texted me pain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, with that being said, the Giants have been a very, very competitive football team this year.
Yes, I really like what Joe Judge is doing.
And they just went to Seattle and beat them.
They fucking handed it to him, dude. I know it says 17-12, but if you watch the game, they defensively handed their ass to Seattle.
Yeah. Wasn't the score like 17-5 at one point?
Yes. Yes.
It's such a Seattle kind of game, honestly. Like, Seattle's just such a weird fucking team when you watch them play football. Yeah.
Very Pete Carroll-esque.
They're a physical team. Yeah, the Giants are a good football team. Like, honestly, I know I've always kind of been a Daniel Jones hater, and I'm still not 100% sold on him, but if they can build around him a little bit more and work up that defense a little bit more,
he could be Eli Manning 2.0. He could be Eli Manning 2.0.
They got something going there. Right.
I know you and I have disagreed on this, but I've always said Eli Manning's not a Hall of Famer because to me a Hall of Famer is a guy who revolutionizes the position. And I'm sorry, beating the GOAT in 2 Super Bowls is not revolutionizing the position. It just means you have a good team and you were playing good in those moments in your career, right? So you were in the Hall of very, very good, and you will be in the New York Giants. You know, what's it called?
Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor or Ring of Honor, right? I don't think Eli Manning deserves Hall of Fame. He never revolutionized his position ever. And he had some mind-blowingly bad games. And Daniel Jones kind of reminds me of that, right? People even memed, oh, hey, he looks like Eli Manning, he plays like Eli Manning, and frankly, he could be Eli Manning 2.0. Play well enough around a good defensive-minded coach to win some games. Don't turn the ball over, which he needs to work on. Don't turn the ball over. Let your running game take it over. Back then it was Tiki Barber. Now it's Saquon Barkley. Dude, this is literally the 2005 through 2012 Giants all over again. It literally is. Oh my God. The similarities are unreal. Anyways, point being, And it wasn't meant to be a hot take that I don't think Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame. I really just don't think he should be. I'm sorry, 2 Super Bowl titles doesn't earn that because that's partially a team stat, and he never was. I can't ever say a time where Eli Manning was really ever like a top 4, top 5 guy in his position. And that's kind of a product of him playing in an era of Brett Favre, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Who else was around at the time? Not Kurt Warner, because Kurt Warner's in the late stages, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So, but I know you think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe we can have that discussion one day in the off season about whether Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame or not. That'd be a cool off season discussion. But I guess we can save that for another time. Back to this, the Giants' schedule, because we said Washington could end 8-8. They play the Cardinals, Browns, Ravens, Cowboys. So the Giants have to go 3-1 in that. Can they go 3-1 against Ravens, Browns, Cardinals, Cowboys? Like, does that? I don't think it happens.
No, I don't think so either. And even if Daniel Jones comes back healthy, it hurts my wallet. But yeah, I don't see it.
So we're saying Washington football team makes the playoffs, but not through the wild card.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Okay, so theoretically, never mind. I don't think that's going to happen. We'll talk about that if it happens. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. I was thinking theoretically, what if they both go 4-0? But I can't see the Giants going 4-0. I can see Washington going 4-0. Their schedule's kind of cupcake at this point. 49ers, Panthers, Eagles, that's 3 wins. And then the Seahawks, you could beat the Seahawks. Why not?
Right.
Why not, right? So, but I think realistically Seattle probably wins that game. So 3-1, win your division at 8-8. So let's take Washington out of the equation then, because we're putting them in division. Let's do what the 2 primary ones are in the first place, which is the Cardinals and the Vikings. Let's look at both their schedules, okay? If you ask me, I think the Cardinals got it slightly rougher than the Vikings do. So the Cardinals have the Giants, Eagles, 49ers, and Rams left.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings have the Buccaneers, Bears, Saints, and Lions left. So if you ask me, the Vikings beat the Bears and the Lions, and they have 2 tough games against the Buccaneers and Saints. And you can beat the Buccaneers because if Jekyll and Hyde shows up, right, and Mr. Hyde comes around, yo, that's a free win, baby. And let's be real here. Saints are probably the best team in the NFC, but the Vikings, the Mike Zimmer Vikings, have owned the Sean Payton Saints every time they play. 4-0 is possible for these Vikings, depending on how the games go. I think 2-2/3-3 is more realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so as well. I honestly don't see either the Cardinals or Vikings honestly finishing this out their stretch at 3-1. Meaning if it's going to flip, one of these teams needs to go 1-3. And one team's a lot hotter than the other one right now, and it really hurts me to say that. So unless some things change drastically, someone's going to have to finish 1-3 if it's going to flip, in my opinion. And it's going to have to be the Vikings if it's going to flip. And I just don't really see it. Unless the Cardinals can somehow manage to go 3-1 or 4-0, and they just randomly get hot, I don't think it flips, to be quite honest. And I think the Cardinals, even after the 5-2 start, they kind of fell off, and it sucks, and it's going to raise a lot of questions. But they're probably going to miss the playoffs.
So you're saying the Vikings make it instead?
I honestly, it hurts to say it because it's been a long time since we sniffed the playoffs, but yeah, I would say so.
So you're saying that because you're being a Debbie Downer, or do you realistically think that's what's going to happen?
At the moment, I mean, I would say it's a little bit of a mix of both because these last few weeks have been really rough. But I would say it's because I realistically think that. I think this offense has some serious issues right now. And the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is only lining up on one side of the field and he's running an out route every single time. It's the best wide receiver in the National Football League, and all you're making him do is run 10-yard outs. So what are we doing? I don't get it. The offense has been handcuffed for whatever reason at the moment. It's funny. All the numbers say this Cardinals offense is way better, and at the beginning of the season, this offense is way better compared to what it was last year in 2019. But last year it looked way more dynamic, especially at the end of the year, and now it looks like a college offense, and it looks like we're running the same plays every single time, and I just don't think that's going to be good enough to get you a playoff spot. I think the Cardinals probably end up 2-2. I think the Vikings probably are going to end up 2-2 as well, and if that's the case, it's not flipping.
So essentially, at this point, you have to pray that you either go. You as a fan have to pray that the Cardinals go 3-1, which is possible.
Mm-hmm.
49ers, Eagles, Giants. That's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Or the
Vikings fall on their face, even though they've been really, really, really hot lately.
I see. So, but by the way, if you both go 2-2 and finish 8-8, tiebreakers can be decided by other teams winning. You guys didn't play each other, and if you guys have the same NFC conference schedule, right? Which the Vikings play 4 NFC teams and you play 4 NFC teams, right? So depending on how the win-losses go, if your conference records are the same, then at that point it's strength of schedule. So it might depend on other teams winning that's not related to you guys. That could get really complicated real quick.
Yeah, and that's very true. And I thought about that briefly, but I was like, it's probably such a huge fucking mess that I can't even really think about it right now. I would have to look more at it later. But again, still just not a lot the Cardinals have been doing recently is instilling a lot of faith for what they're going to do down the stretch. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We'll see how it goes, man.
All right, so that's all I got for our pointers. Do you want to start on our passing with the catch segment, since I've been doing a lot of the start of it? Let's give the mic to you.
So I'm going to preface this segment with I've had 2 weeks since we didn't record an episode last week to kind of stir. And honestly, every single one of these could probably be a Hail Mary, and I tried to rank them the best I could so you guys could let us know how you would put them. But we're going to start with the check down, and we're going to go to the Browns. I'm going to say this right now. The Browns aren't a joke. And they proved that with the way they beat the Titans this last week. And they will be half of the AFC Championship game.
They will be at the AFC Championship game?
Yes.
So let's see.
They will be in the AFC Championship game.
So let's think about this realistically. Okay, so they're going to be in the wild card. See, at that point, they're going to be... I'm going to give the Browns the highest wild card seed. I'm going to give them the 5 seed. Mm-hmm. So they're going to play... They're going to play the Colts or the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
They can do that. So at that point, they eliminate the 4 seed. And once you eliminate the 4 seed, you are the 5th seed. Okay? So, depending upon if the 6th and 7th were eliminated by 3 and 2, right, you are going to play, okay, if the 6th and 7th thing hang around, that takes the 1st seed. So, you are likely to either play Kansas City or Pittsburgh at that point. Likely. We're just looking at likely scenarios. You're likely to play Kansas City or Pittsburgh at that point, at 1 and 2. I don't know, man. I don't know. They'd have to. I mean, they could beat the Steelers. I don't know if they can beat the Chiefs. They can. Like, the Chiefs aren't unbeatable. Like, the Broncos almost handed them an L on Sunday Night Football. It's possible. I'm not going to sit here and argue and say they can't. It is quite possible.
My biggest reasoning that's going into this is the two things that you really, really need to be a successful playoff team, the Browns are pretty damn good at. And that's the ability to stop the run and the ability to run. Because that Browns defensive line is monstrous. And then you got the best two-headed monster in terms of running backs in the entire NFL in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And when you're going to be playing in cold weather on the East Coast in the AFC this late in the season, good luck, guys. I think the Browns are going to be really tough to beat when it comes to playoffs.
All right, I see it. I see it. The only thing I will say is, because the Browns have a monstrous offensive line, right? And then you have two dynamic running backs, and then it's just a running game. It's impossible to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if a team can do to the Browns what teams have done to the Ravens, right? When you stop the running game and dare them to throw, can they win? And again, we saw them do it against the Titans, but I think it's because the Titans have no pass rush and Baker was comfortable. If you're playing against the Steelers, too, they got a pass rush. They got a pass rush. And they have corners. And I can say the same about Kansas City as well. That's a tough one. I'm not sure if I'm going to be 100% on board with them making the AFC Championship, but I definitely see them getting to the divisional round, and they could upset and get to the AFC Championship. They can upset and get to the AFC Championship. I give it a 45% chance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if I have to pick one or the other side, I'd say it's a 45-55.
I mean, I'd take those odds.
I mean, it's not bad odds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right, you ready for your check?
It's not bad. Yeah, I'm ready for my check down. So my check down is going to be that and it's kind of funny that we were talking about the Vikings and Cardinals here, and that's why I didn't say much on it. I have the Vikings making the playoffs at the 7th seed, which really hurts my soul because no, it hurts my soul because
Mister, the Cardinals are going to win the division over here.
Yeah, that's why it hurts my soul a lot. Yeah, it's 6-3, dude. It looked fantastic. They looked everything I wanted them to do, and then they lost to Seattle. I'm like, that's fine. And then they lost to New England, and I'm like, that's not fine. And then they lost to the Rams in like rather spectacular fashion. I'm like, oh, they got a while to go. I think they're a year away at this point.
The more and more this season's gone on, I've noticed how many holes this roster still has and how many players aren't even going to be on this team next year, especially defensively. There's so many holes still to fill. And there's a lot of money tied up to players that are older and aren't going to be here for that much longer. Like, honestly, hurts my heart to say it, but there's a big question mark in the room, and that's Chandler Jones. I wouldn't be shocked if the Cardinals trade him away this offseason. Get some draft capital for him and start trying to build younger. And this team doesn't have a whole lot of pass rush, and you're probably going to bring back Hassan Reddick at this point. But the Cardinals are probably the only team in the NFL that aren't going to have both of their two starting corners return next season. There's a lot of holes that are going to need to be filled with this team, and it could be for better or for worse. There is probably going to end up being changes to the coaching staff at some capacity, especially if they don't make the playoffs. There's going to be changes made to this team, and it's not that the Cardinals are bad, and I'm not the one who's thinking that the Cardinals should fire Cliff Kingsbury in any sense of the matter, but I'm starting to notice tendencies that worry me. And the lack of being able to be dynamic with his offense and just running the same shit over and over again, that's starting to worry me.
Yep.
So Kyler's lack of leadership starting to worry me a little bit. There's lots of question marks with this team. Again, that's why I'm not picking them to go to the playoffs right now. Things could change. Who knows? Cardinals could go out on Sunday, flip a switch, and be the team that they were through the first 9 weeks on Sunday. And maybe they get hot. You never know.
I mean, it would be the right time, right? You beat the Giants, and then you should beat the Eagles, right? Then you should beat the 49ers, 3-win streak, and you go in and play the Rams, and you want revenge. No, Sean McVay owns the Cardinals, let's be honest. But, like, going in 3-0 to the Rams is nice, right?
Right. And, again, like, don't get me wrong, it can happen. Like, 2 weeks prior to the playoffs starting the 2008 playoffs, the Cardinals lost 48-7 to the Patriots, then followed that up with an NFC West clinching win over the Rams, and then proceeded to win 3 games after that to march to a Super Bowl. Now, that's not fucking happening this year. There's no fucking way. This team isn't good enough. But they could get hot enough and make it to the playoffs and win a playoff game. No matter what, I think in some ways this season is still a success and the Cardinals grew this season. But they also need to look into the mirror this offseason and figure out what is this team. Because I thought this team had their identity in being a rushing football team, and now they've lost it, and we don't know what this identity is anymore. So and that's why I can't pick them to make the playoffs right now, is because they don't have an identity.
I'd agree with that. Alrighty.
Sorry for taking over your take.
No.
I've been very emotional.
Nah, no worries, dude. So I'm going to go to my first down completion. This sounds like a slight hot take, and it's really not. I think the Rams are going to finish their schedule 4-0 and grab the number, unfortunately for them, the number 3 seed at 12-4, and they're going to go to the NFC Championship and possibly the Super Bowl. They're Super Bowl contenders is essentially what I'm saying.
Now, the team that you just mentioned, it cut out when you said it. Who did you say?
The Rams. They'll finish 4-0. They'll be 12-4. No, well, hold on. They'll finish 4-0. They'll be 12-4. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say they make at least the NFC Championship. In other words, I'm saying they're Super Bowl contenders.
Now, that's fair, and I would say they're Super Bowl contenders, but they're also too inconsistent of a team for me to go that far with them. So I get it. Because when the Rams are playing at the height of their, I guess, efficiency, when they're playing the way they should and the way their offense and their team is designed to play, because their defense is so damn good. Nobody's giving them enough respect for how good that defense really is. But their offense tends to be really inconsistent, and even sometimes their defense can be inconsistent, just that team as a whole. And I'm not going to trust an inconsistent team late in the season, and especially in the playoffs. So, to an extent, I agree with what you're saying. And yes, I would say they're a Super Bowl contender, but I don't trust them enough to be consistent enough to make it there.
So here's what I was looking at. Okay, this is what I was looking at, because I know where you're going, but I did a bit of a deep dive, right? Because what you said is, and I'm not criticizing what you're saying, because I agree with what you're saying, but it's very surface level, and I wanted to deep dive and be like, okay, what's really going on with the Rams here, right? So the 49ers, by the way, I don't know if you've known this, in the 49ers-Rams rivalry, the 49ers have owned the Rams in the last 4 games. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I feel like their 2 losses to the 49ers are more so just the fact that Kyle Shanahan knows how to beat Sean McVay. Right? So if we take out their 2 losses, they're 8-2. And I'm not trying to take out losses. I'm just saying they're 8-2 against other teams. Their only 2 losses are the Bills, which is a great loss to have. And the other one is the Dolphins, which I won't criticize you for either. You got mauled that game. They got mauled. But when we look at their other wins, okay, so they beat a really good defense in the Bears defense. They beat the Buccaneers. They beat the Seahawks. They beat the Cardinals recently. Like 3 of their last 4 games, they've beaten playoff contenders. If you're winning playoff games right now, why can't you win them later? And they have the team for it. I know we stereotype it, but you need a defense to win playoff games. And they got it. Mm-hmm. And their running game is not amazing, but getting better in the last few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if, A, they beat the Patriots tomorrow night, beat the Jets the following week, beat the Seahawks the following week, and like I said, they own the Cardinals. That's 4-0 to me. And they're a very physical football team. They would play the Packers. I'm sorry. I think at this point they punch the Packers in the mouth, and the Packers lose that game. NFC Championship.
I gotta say, man, that's pretty hot. And maybe it's just because my Cardinals bias and like the Rams are, they're probably my least favorite team in the division just because number one, they own us, and like even when we do beat them, like one of our key players seems to like tear their ACL or some shit.
Didn't happen last week.
But we also didn't beat them.
That's true. That's true.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just think maybe I am looking it out on a surface level, but I do think their defense really is incredible. I just, I guess
the Jared Goff factor is really hard to get behind, I will admit.
Yeah, that's part of the reason too. And their run game is they got like a three-headed monster there, but they don't know how to use it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Because like I always say, the two things you need in playoff football is the ability to stop the run, which they have, and the ability to run the ball. And it's not that they can't run the ball, but I don't think they're consistent enough running the ball with just one guy. And you're not – because I think all running backs get better as games go on, and they get hotter as more they get the ball. But if you're only giving – these three guys like 5 carries a game each, like you're not giving them an opportunity to really get going, and you're hoping like some guy maybe just pops, and I just don't think that's good enough, and I don't think that's going to be good enough to win playoff football, to be quite honest.
I don't know, happened to the 49ers, Raheem Mostert.
Especially if they have to go, okay, maybe, but especially if you have to go on the road to Lambeau.
No fans, who cares?
I'm talking the weather.
All right,
in January.
They got the football team for January. I know they're a California team, but they got the team for winter football. I don't know, man. I feel like they punched Packers in the mouth, and this is coming from a guy who like was raised as a Packers fan, and like I'm going to be with Packers family this entire winter break because my family from the Midwest is coming. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to be non-biased here, and I feel the Rams just. I feel like they're the ones playing the Saints in the NFC Championship game. That's what I feel right now. This could totally change later, right?
Oh, no, not again.
Oh, the Rams and the Saints again? Yes!
Saints and
let's go!
Can't wait for the controversy.
But, dude, if that happened, could you imagine? Could you just imagine?
It would be terrible.
Dude, the media would never, ever stop talking about it. Ever. And if there was any bad calls in that game,
it would probably have to create a new rule for it for a year and then give up the next year.
Dude, that rule was so terrible. Stupid. What's your first down?
All right, so my first down. This was a little spicy, a little tang to this one.
Okay.
Anthony Lynn would be fired before Adam Gase.
Dang. Okay. I mean, I buy it. At this point, I don't think that speaks on Anthony Lynn. I think that speaks of the stubbornness of the Jets.
Now, and here's the reason why I think of that. Is because. Don't get me wrong, Greg Roman's a shit coach, and he's a terrible defensive coordinator.
Greg Roman?
Adam
Gase?
Yeah.
Hello? You're talking about Greg Williams. You're saying Greg Williams.
Or, yeah, Greg Williams. I meant to say Greg Williams. He was their DC, and they just fired him after this week. And I looked it up, and I know why. I know exactly why. On the play that the Raiders basically walked off the Jets this weekend, Do you want to know what Greg Williams called?
He called a zero cover. I watched it. It was a zero cover.
He called a zero blitz. He sent
everybody's
7.
1-on-1.
Yeah, he sent 7 and left 3 back to cover. And you want to do that against a guy who runs a 4-2? That's the dumbest shit you could do. And even before that play, Nelson Aguilar got behind the defense, and Derek Carr just overthrew it.
It's very Greg Williams-esque, though. The guy loves to blitz.
Right, and I get that, but in that situation, you don't do it.
No, 100% no.
So
doesn't matter if you're a blitzing guy. You don't blitz there. You give safety protection because you know it's a Hail Mary.
Right. So with that being said, I just don't think the Jets are. I don't know. Maybe they are the meme. This front office is the meme of extend Adam Gase at this point. Because what are they waiting on at this point? Honestly, what more do they need to see?
We said this 5 weeks ago, if you ask me. Right? We said this 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. Like, what more do we need to see? This team, and I don't actually think this team is like the worst thing in the world. Like, so first of all, like C.J. Mosley stayed out because of COVID. A couple of their players stayed out because of COVID, right? And if it weren't for Adam Gase, I feel like Jamal Adams is still here. And it's not like Sam Darnold or even Joe Flacco.
But I mean, it's not like Jamal Adams has been good this year either.
No, but it's not like Sam Darnold or Joe Flacco have looked like bums being out there. Right? They've looked decent. It's just play calling has been very questionable. End of game scenario. Like, dude, they had the Patriots beat, but it didn't matter because they're the Jets because they're coached by Adam Gase. They had the Raiders beat, but they're coached by Adam Gase, so they're the Jets, right? Like, realistically, the Jets should have like 3 wins this year right now, and they don't because their coach sucks. Adam Gase should have been fired a long time ago. I don't know why he wasn't. Okay, I know why he wasn't fired last year because they finished 6-3 in the last 9 games. But like after like the first 4 or 5 games, I don't understand why he wasn't fired. Like he was already on thin ice, or at least I thought he was on thin ice. But apparently that ice was thick as fuck, dude.
Yeah. And now to the main point, Anthony Lynn being fired first. Dude, what happened? I used to really like Anthony Lynn.
So did I.
I guess like. Maybe, and I wouldn't even necessarily say the team doesn't buy into his like message or anything anymore. But
he's got Andy.
When you get shut out 45-0 to, I mean, a not even that great Patriots team. I know you still got Belichick on that sideline, but when you get shut out to that degree, yikes! That's not just an indictment on the players. That is an indictment 100% on coaching. And like, I don't know, man. Like, he made a reference to his staff, and like, I know this is kind of like, I don't know if this is like cherry picking or whatever, but it seems like he's kind of checked out as well, because like he was speaking to the media this week, and he's like, oh, in the meetings with the rest of the staff this week, I made a reference to Pearl Harbor because that's exactly what our team is right now. We're gonna rise from the ashes. I'm like, did this motherfucker really just say that? Yeah. Like, he's comparing a shitty football team to, you know, a national tragedy where a bunch of people died. Like, bro, yeah, it might be time for you to not. So, I don't know. That's just where I'm at. I think Black Monday, Anthony Lynn's gone.
Yep. I'm with you there. But I feel like so is Adam Gase.
But Anthony Lynn will be announced his firing 2 minutes before Adam Gase, and this take will be true.
Hey, there it is, right? So, yeah, I'm with you there. So, my hot take actually isn't that hot anymore now that, like, you've already said the Browns are making it to the AFC Championship. Because my hot take, I guess, goes with your Browns take. I said a team not named KC or Pittsburgh was going to be in the AFC Championship this year.
Yeah, and I'm with that because it's not that
it'll be KC or Pittsburgh with someone else.
Right. Those are the best 2 teams in the AFC, honestly.
Yep.
And anybody who says otherwise is kind of foolish.
Yep.
And I know people want to bag on the Steelers for some dumbass reason, but they're the best 2 teams in the AFC. So, yeah, and yeah,
Bills
there's
might
not a
be
whole
better. Bills might be better. We'll find out Sunday night.
Maybe, but I think I give the edge to coaching when it comes for the Steelers. So I think I would still give them a slight edge. But yeah, there's not a whole lot that needs to be said. I buy into that wholeheartedly. The Chiefs and the Steelers, while they're the best teams in the AFC, I still think they're both very beatable.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because we talked about of all three of these teams, who is better, Steelers, Chiefs, or Saints? Is it a hot take for me to say Saints? I feel like it's the Saints.
Honestly, as a whole, when it comes to coaching, the well-roundedness of the defense and the well-roundedness of the offense, I think you got to give it to the Saints. I think the Steelers are a very close second, but I was kind of a Saints hater at the beginning of the season. I didn't think they were going to go on a run again, and I'm still kind of on them in a way. But it's kind of hard to deny that they're not the best team in the NFC.
One other distracting question before we get to your Hail Mary, since we're on the Saints. Drew Brees can come back this Sunday against Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. I say you play Taysom Hill again. It's Philadelphia, dude. I don't care that they're starting Jalen Hurts. You can handle a rookie quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think,
especially with how bad that offense and just that team is.
I think you give Drew Brees one more week, right? And then maybe this will be week 14 coming up, right? Have him play week 15. And that was the timeline we gave him anyway, right? It was week 15, week 16?
Right. But honestly, Saints fans don't hate me.
Start Taysom anyway. Just keep going with him. I don't know, dude. So I liked Taysom Hill. I don't think you're beating the Chiefs or the Vikings with him. Honestly, I don't.
I think you have a better chance, to be quite honest.
I don't. I'm gonna be honest. I don't. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I don't.
I think the offense is more dynamic, and you can do more with Taysom at quarterback than you can with Drew Brees.
So go back to the take I had 2 weeks ago. For that.
I don't think the Saints would beat the Chiefs with Drew Brees either.
No, what I'm saying is start Drew Brees, but if you want more dynamicness, right, throw Taysom Hill in for a few passing plays, not just running plays.
I get that.
Keep the defense on their toes.
Running a 2-quarterback system is dumb, and it's never worked, and that's basically what that is to me.
I don't think it is, because if they're averaging 33 passes a game and you give 28 to Drew Brees and 5 to Taysom Hill, that's not a 2 QB system, right? That's just throwing a wild card out there.
I don't know. I still think that's dumb. Because I get what you're saying, but it's been shown that Taysom Hill isn't a good passer unless he is the starter. He's shown that. He's put it on tape. He's not a good passer unless he's starting.
I wouldn't even say he was very good 2 weeks ago, even when he was starting. I think this last week was the only week he looked all that good passing. Not saying that he didn't look good as a player, as an athlete on the field, but I think last week was the only week he looked good passing. I think he just needed reps.
Yeah, and I agree. Overall, though, I think Taysom Hill gives their offense a better chance. I don't think you're beating the Saints, I don't think the Saints are beating the Chiefs with Drew Brees as starter anyway. Yeah, they probably won't beat him with Taysom Hill as a starter either, but honestly, I think he gives them a better chance just because it makes the offense more dynamic.
So if you were looking to win the Super Bowl, do you want a guy who's essentially a rookie at the QB position, or do you want a guy who knows everything? That's what it comes down to for me, and I want a guy who knows everything.
Sure, you get a guy with more experience, but you also get a guy who's making your team more limited.
Don't disagree, but it was working before. It was working before.
Yeah.
And I know you were a hater of it, but it was working, dude. It was always working. It was working then. It's working now.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
I guess we, because you're not wrong, and it's not that I don't think the Saints could do it with Drew Brees. I honestly just think Taysom Hill gives them a slightly better chance. I don't think it's that far off, but I don't know. I think I think it's more appealing to have a more dynamic offense.
Saints could win the Super Bowl. He'll be like, man, I don't know about that Saints offense with Drew Brees. It could totally be a Peyton Manning situation, right? Where the defense carries it. You just have Drew Brees lob it to Alvin Kamara and whatnot. And maybe Taysom Hill's the one who makes the best throws in the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what happens, right? But at that point, if your name is Drew Brees, if you are Drew Brees, do you care?
Right.
No, you just want to win.
I mean, he's done after this anyway.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He can't. There's no way. He was already supposed to be done. I can't see him playing again. I can't.
Mm-hmm. No, I can't either.
So, yeah. Sorry, that was just a little tangent since we were there. So it's definitely the Chiefs or the Saints, right? Or even the Steelers, I guess. But it's a hard one to pick, I feel. The Chiefs just keep winning, dude. They just keep winning. And their only loss was to the Raiders. Like, all right, what's your hot take?
All right. This is it. Carson Wentz has played his last game as an Eagle.
All right. I believe it.
Now let's look at it real quick, because the very first thing you think of when I say that is probably his cap hit, right?
No, I think of his mediocre quarterback play, the fact that they drafted a quarterback round 2, and at this point, I don't think Doug Peterson with Carson Wentz works. I'm starting to really think about what Bootleg told us last summer. Sorry, I overtook this for a second. And that Frank Reich really was a guy who unleashed Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz hasn't been the same since that MVP season when Frank Reich was there. So maybe I'm not doubting Doug Peterson as a coach yet. I'm not there, but I'm thinking he can't coach Carson Wentz, or he can't fix Carson Wentz, right? I think Carson Wentz needs another coach, because I still believe in Carson Wentz's talent, but I think he needs another situation. And Jalen Hurts looks way better when he's on the field. Now that might be due to lack of defensive preparation, but he looks better on the field.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to preface this with, I think Howie Roseman absolutely failed Carson Wentz.
Yes. No receivers, dude. Come on.
No receivers. The offensive line was there, but it fell apart, and then you had no backup plan. And I know it's tough when all of your offensive line go down. I saw what happened with the 2018 Cardinals. That was the biggest reason why Josh Rosen was a failure, is that offensive line. I know what that does to a team, and I know what that does to a quarterback, and I see that happening to Carson Wentz, but everybody just wants to label him a bum. Now, while Carson Wentz, yes, obviously has regressed, there's no doubt about that. It's really hard to do anything with what he's been given. He's been absolutely failed by his front office. And the fact that you did basically draft his replacement is an indictment on the front office, and how, honestly, you didn't really seem to care to help him out. And now you're benching him? Oof. That's just, oof. There's not much more to say about that. Howie Roseman failed Wentz. With that being said, Wentz just got this giant contract. Now, Carson Wentz is due a $10 million roster bonus on the third day of the new league year. Now, if he is cut, now I don't think he'll be cut, but if he is cut before then, only $59 million of his contract is in dead money, and it's only a $25 million cap hit. After those 3 days, if he is not cut, it's $74 million in dead money with that cap hit. And now if he is traded, it is only $33.8 million in 2021 dead money. Now his cap hits for the next 4 years in 2021, 2022, 23, 24 are as follows: 34.7, 31.3, 36.3, and then 32 million. So you have a little bit of leeway. Obviously, if you're choosing to move on, you're biting a huge fucking bullet. But if they're going to do it this offseason...
On a rookie contract with Jalen Hurts, well, that's not the worst thing, is it?
It's right, and it's not the worst thing. But now you're still handcuffing what you can do for Jalen Hurts. Honestly, I think Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman should be on the way out.
You think you're selling yourself on Doug Peterson?
It's not that I am against Doug Peterson, but I think at this point those two are tied together. And I think if you're
Howie
if you
Roseman
just,
is around the time of Chip Kelly. He's been around a
Yes.
long time.
Right. But I think if this team is going to move on from what was just their MVP star, face of the franchise quarterback that you just paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, and if you're going to get rid of him, you're getting rid of everyone. You're cleaning house if you're doing that. And I think, honestly, both the GM and head coach would be on the way out. Even if he won a Super Bowl for you. I believe that. So if they're going to do it, they have a way to. You got the deadline for it, basically, to save as much money as you can. And you do have Jalen Hurts on that rookie contract. So I think it's a possibility. And honestly, even if Carson Wentz isn't, even if he is on this roster next year, I would say Jalen Hurts is probably the starter. Why'd you draft him otherwise?
So let me have a follow-up question then. Because I'm with you. I don't think he's playing. Maybe it's not his last Eagles game. He might play more this season. But this might be his last season with the Eagles. Mm-hmm. Where does he go? I already have 3 ideas in mind.
Number one, and I know everybody kind of like, whenever a big-time player gets released, they're just like, oh, well, this team. And I'm kind of there. The Patriots.
That was not what I was thinking. But, yeah, okay, I buy it.
Because Cam Newton's not coming back next year, dude. Come on. That's not Bill Belichick's kind of guy.
Nope.
I don't think that's what – and I know, obviously, Bill Belichick isn't a defensive guy in the first place, but Bill Belichick, I think, has seen enough to realize that Cam Newton's not the guy for this team.
Nope.
And I think I think Carson Wentz would be a perfect fit. And if you build the offense and the team around Carson Wentz with that coaching, have fun winning another 5 Super Bowls. Because that's probably what's going to fucking happen, to be quite honest. Because
Josh McDaniels, Carson Wentz sounds nice.
Yeah. And if they can get him some weapons, it's looking pretty good for him. I like that situation there. Depending on what happens to other teams' quarterback situations, maybe if Jimmy Garoppolo isn't
49ers.
I was 49ers. Mm-hmm.
So
if Jimmy G isn't a 49er anymore, he could go to the 49ers.
So what I've been
there's suitors.
What I've been thinking is he is a guy who needs a new location. Like it's official. Carson Wentz is trash in Philadelphia now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he trash in total? We don't know. Some people will say yes, but I point to the last couple of years and say, do we not remember how much of a heroic job he did last year?
Right.
Like, holy shit.
Last year, and what? It was 2 or 3 years ago that he was literally the MVP candidate before tearing his ACL.
I'm kind of pushing myself away from that now at that point because that was so long ago now, right?
Yeah, and that's fair. But one other thing is everybody wants to bring up, oh, he's so injury prone. But again, he hasn't missed that many games in his career. Number one, and number two,
he's been fully
you see the offensive. You see the offensive line that's in front of him. It's a miracle he's healthy.
Yeah, it is. If he was injury prone, he would have been injured by now.
Right.
So my main point was, I feel like he's the type of quarterback who needs to go to a relock and reload or lock and reload team, right? Mm-hmm. A team who's ready to go to the playoffs. They just need a quarterback. 49ers give me those vibes if they don't keep Jimmy G. You might hate this, and I don't, depending on the coaching situation. Let me reiterate that. What about the Bears? You got a receiver in Allen Robinson. You got a defense.
Does Allen Robinson doesn't want to be there?
Yeah, but if you tell Allen Robinson, hey, we're getting Carson Wentz, what do you think? If you tell Allen Robinson, hey, we're getting a quarterback, and we still believe in this defense, because Allen Robinson has to believe in that defense too, right?
Mm-hmm. That's tough. I don't, because to be quite honest, I still think, they have the receiver, but they don't have much else on that offense. And like David Montgomery's okay, the offensive line's okay. Maybe they are just a quarterback.
And we've seen Carson Wentz doesn't need much else, right, to make his offense run.
Right, and that's fair.
With a monster defense, I kind of buy it.
I kind of buy it, yeah. And they'll be a team in need of a quarterback, but they'll also be a team that won too many games to really draft one. But then again, this team or this quarterback draft class is actually turning out and might be pretty damn good. But I also don't trust the Bears to draft the right one.
Yep.
So
I don't think.
I guess we'll kind of upscale.
I don't think this is going to happen because I think they're going to roll the dice on their quarterback one more year for better or for worse. At this rate, it looks like it might be for worse. But I'd like to see Carson Wentz go to Denver. But I don't think John Elway's going to do it. I think they're going to look at this year as Drew Lock's very first year. He was also hurt. And then they're going to say, we're going to give you a third year with all these weapons. Mm-hmm. And they're going to tell Drew Lock, can you do it? Right?
Right.
And what is going to be your second full year of games, can you do it? Can you get the reps with Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, and all those guys who were injured, right? Noah Fant, they were all injured, right? They're going to say, okay, we gave all this to you. You're going to have an off season to train with them. Do you create the synergy with them, and do you get better? I think that's what's going to happen with Drew Lock, and we'll see what happens. That offense is so much talent that I can't not buy a quarterback. I don't care who the quarterback is. I can't buy a quarterback not getting better with all that talent in an offseason, right? But Drew Lock has to make the decision to stay after practice, put in extra hours over the offseason with his players for that to happen. Or if the Broncos decide to sell on Drew Lock and say, hey, we don't want him. I like Carson Wentz there. There's so many weapons. And it's not like the defense is bums. The defense is still nice in Denver. It's still nice. It's not amazing. It's nice, though.
Yeah, I can buy that. I think he'll have suitors, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's all going to be on what the Eagles want to do. And they'll be able to trade him. And they'll probably be able to get pretty good capital for him. So, who knows? We'll see. You ready for picks?
Yeah, I am.
Hello? Okay. Just thought we disconnected there.
Nope.
Where do we stand in terms of picks right now, in terms of record?
Oh, I wish I had the picks in front of me because it's on my board at home, and I'm currently in my classroom. Yeah. I don't remember what it was. Last time it was like 105 to 101 was what we were. Mm-hmm. I'll have to get the numbers together for it and update you on that. So you're still on a technicality. I think you're still ahead of me, even though I got two on you this week. So I think you're still ahead of me, even though I got two on you this week. Okay. Because we were the exact same the week before. Like our picks were the exact. We didn't differ at all. So we'd still be 4 different. So, and I know we were 2 different this time around, and I got 2 on you. So you're still 2 ahead of me, whatever that mysterious number is. Mm-hmm. So you are still winning, my friend.
Yeah, there.
All right. So week 14 picks. Tomorrow night we got the Patriots and the Rams. I think this is a fun Thursday night game, actually. I think this will be a good time.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good one.
But ultimately, I'm going to pick Aaron Donald wrecking that line and the running game, and ultimately they're going to have to try and throw. And you're not throwing against Jalen Ramsey, who I don't like. He's having a great year. I don't like him as a person, but he's having a great year. I can't deny it. So, Rams, even if Jared Goff has a bad night, I don't see how they lose this one because I feel like the Rams. This reminds me of a game that the Rams would win 6-0 or 6-3. This reminds me of the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl, actually. Low scoring, but there's no Tom Brady and Gronkowski to score a touchdown. So I give it to the Rams.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's hard to pick the Buccaneers when they've been our Jekyll and Hyde team, and I think the Rams have really been turning it on lately, no matter how much it hurts me to say it. And their defense is incredible, and if their offense shows up like it should, they'll be fine. I'll pick LA.
Sweet. Cool. So we both got LA. Vikings and Buccaneers. What do you got?
Vikings and Buccaneers.
Yes. That is who is playing this week.
Oh, yeah. I got things mixed up. Vikings and Buccaneers. Let me look at my sheet here. So I picked Tampa Bay. And I think I'm going to stick with it. I think the Vikings are really, really hot, but I think as long as the Buccaneers come out, not being the bad version of their team, they'll be fine. So I'm going to go. That's all I really got on it. I'm going to go Bucs.
All right, cool. So, if you want to know, fun fact, by the way, we are 14 weeks into the NFL season. The Vikings are 6-6. You want to know what I am picking Vikings games this year?
What's that?
3-7.
Yikes!
I cannot pick Vikings games for the life of me. Our friend Adam has always joked that I curse the Vikings because I'm always wrong. And he's not. I guess he's not wrong this year. I'm 3-7. So I guess there's something to be said about the fact that I'm a jinx to the Vikings. So when I pick the Buccaneers this week, I actually mean that the Vikings are going to win, I guess. But no, I'm picking the Buccaneers here because I have it's a mental game in my head now about what's going to happen because I want to pick the Buccaneers here because I think they're the better team, right? But I'm going to pick the Buccaneers because they're playing the Vikings. Mr. Hyde Buccaneers are going to show up instead, and the Vikings are going to win this game. Because, fuck me, right?
The Vikings must lose. The Vikings must lose.
I mean, that's what you want, right?
That's what I need.
I personally think the Buccaneers pull this out, though.
That's fair.
Reason being, the Vikings, when they've gotten beaten by teams with multiple weapons, and teams that are able to, split up your defense, and I think the Buccaneers have that potential.
Fair enough.
All right, Giants Cardinals. Do you want me to take this first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, dude. If I did my upsets of the week like I used to, this would be my upset of the week, and I'd be picking the Giants. They're a tough team. They're definitely getting hot, while the Cardinals are getting really cold. It hurts to say it because I feel like the Giants should win this game. But on the other hand, I don't see a scenario in which the Cardinal... I've said this to myself like 3 weeks in a row now, so maybe I shouldn't be saying this. I don't see how they can repeat the same mistakes they've been making the last 3 weeks. And you'll say they will, and they probably will, but it will be mind-blowing to me if 4 weeks in a row I say, yep, they still have a problem there, they still have a problem there, they haven't fixed that, they haven't fixed that, you're undisciplined, you're not doing that. Like, I just don't understand how you're not telling yourself we need to do something different with the playbook. You don't have to completely change plays, just throw wrinkles, do something different, right? Make teams guess. You have one of the most dynamic players at the quarterback position. Use that. And they haven't been doing it recently. The only thing that would really caution me from this is, and I know it's a meme in the Arizona Twitterverse, but if this game comes down to a field goal, I'm picking the Giants, dude. Zane Gonzalez has fucked up this year. The Cardinals are
he really has.
The Cardinals are a field goal kicker away from being 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
Sad to say, they are.
And the whole Cardinals fan base would be singing a very different tune right now. And that's the thing, and it's super, super frustrating.
The kick against the Dolphins,
Miami,
the kick against the Patriots, even the missed kicks against Los Angeles. Yeah, frustrating to watch.
Even when he went up to kick that field goal before half against the Rams, I told myself he's not making this. I tweeted it.
Yeah, you texted me. He's like, he's not making this.
I tweeted, I think, before the drive. I said, the Cardinals better get this down to the 1-inch line or Zane isn't making this. And even there, I don't feel confident that he'll make it. And sure as shit, we have to settle for a field goal. And I get a flood of replies just laughing their ass off. I'm like, yeah, I fucking called it. It's not like it's difficult to know he's not going to make it. It's very, very frustrating.
Cardinals or Giants, my guy.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of what you were saying, and maybe it's just blind faith. But I don't think the Cardinals keep making the same fucking mistakes that they've been making for the last 3 weeks. And I haven't been this pessimistic all season. And I've been saying all year that I'm kind of tempering expectations, but it's not that my expectations changed. I expected this team to be about 8 or 9 wins, and that looks like exactly where they're going to be. But this offense has got to break back out, right? And the defense has been playing a lot better recently.
The way you're getting to 8 wins is what's frustrating. Because when you think 8 to 9 wins, you think 4-5, 5-4, you know, and then we
started 5-2, 6-3,
and then you're 5-5, and then you're 6-6, right? That's not what happened. You were 6-3, and at that point, you think to yourself, "Oh, we're 6-3. There's 8 games left. Oh, we finished 4-4. We're 10-6. Easy, right?" And that's not what's happened at all.
Right. It's been mind-numbing. That being said, I'm just going to go Cardinals blind faith, I guess.
All right, cool. I'm going to make this one short, even though this one could be longer, and this is no disrespect to Miami. I think they're going to get outclassed. That's really what this comes down to me. They're going to get outclassed by Kansas City, and when you're outclassed, it doesn't matter. When you're outclassed, it doesn't matter. So I'm picking Kansas City for that reason.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about this one. I give just about every edge to the Chiefs, and it's no disrespect to Miami, but I'm also not going to pick a second-year head coach, Brian Flores, or is his third year? Either way, I'm not picking a second-year head coach and a rookie quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
By the way, the situation where Miami wins this game, because Brian Flores was the defensive coordinator when they beat the Chiefs during Patrick Mahomes' MVP year.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. No, it's not happening.
Can you let me finish?
Sure.
Is Brian Flores takes a page out of that book, and this defense has been stellar. They take a page out of that book and they apply the same concepts, and Andy Reid can't deal with it. They could win.
And now, I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to take a page out of that book. The Chiefs are going to adjust to it in like 2 seconds, and they're going to smoke them.
Probably. Anyways, next one. Titans, Jaguars. Jaguars are the worst team in football, not named the Jets. That's my analysis. Anybody who's playing them is going to lose. Anybody who's playing them gets a free win. Titans.
I wish I was playing the Jags this week. Titans.
Dude, I play them next week. Yeet. Bro, here's a good one if Joe Burrow was playing. Cowboys, Bengals. But unfortunately, Joe Burrow's not playing. There's the Andy Dalton revenge story. Do you think Andy Dalton lights it up just because he's playing his former team?
No.
No? You don't even think? There's extra drive?
Maybe with the weapons, but, I mean, you should be able to light up Cincinnati's defense, especially with the weapons you have.
I'm going to give the offensive edge to the Cowboys, even though they're not great. I'll be fair. Ezekiel Elliott looked really good last night. He hasn't looked good all year. He's been bad all year, but he looked really good last night. Against a healthy Ravens defense. So, I'm going to give it to the Cowboys, I think.
Yeah, I'm not picking Cincinnati to beat anybody without Joe Burrow, Dallas.
Yep. The whole reason, Cincinnati looked better was because of Joe Burrow, and now he's gone, right? So, forget it. Bears, Texans. This is a tough one, I think. Bears suck, but so do the Texans.
Yeah, they're both pretty stinky doo-doo, but guess what? The Texans have Deshaun Watson.
And the Bears have a defense. And they got and each of their losses has been because the defense stifles the Texans' offense. That's why it's hard for me. You know what? You know what? You know what? Here's what I'm not thinking about. Okay, here's what I'm not thinking about, and I'm so sorry I wasn't thinking about it. The Bears quarterbacks are Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky. I'm picking the Texans. My bad. Sorry, dude. My bad.
Exactly,
My bad.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say. When you brought up the defense, I was going to counter it with how good the Bears defense is how bad the Bears offense is. And I trust, even with how good the Bears defense is, Deshaun Watson to put up more points in the Bears offense. Fair enough?
Fair. Yeah, fair enough, dude. So we
got Houston.
We got a draft pick game here. 4-8 Broncos versus 4-8 Panthers. What do we think here?
I think Denver will be outclassed because just Carolina while they're not a great team, they still have way more talent, so I'm going Carolina.
Really? Because I'm actually going Denver here, mostly because I liked what I saw from them Sunday night. I think if you can limit the Chiefs that way, you can handle a team who has way less talent.
I actually think, maybe I kind of take that back. Maybe the Denver has more talent, but I think these teams are very evenly matched.
I think it makes for an entertaining game. That doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, right, honestly. Yeah, but I think I'm still go to with Carolina, maybe just to be devil's advocate and maybe get a game up on you. So.
Cool. So the Jets are finally going to get their first win against the Seahawks.
Right. I mean, shit. You saw the way the Seahawks played last week?
It don't matter, dude. It's the Jets. I'm picking Seattle. It don't matter until
the Jets did fire Greg Williams.
Yep.
No more zero blitzes.
But they didn't fire
the play of the game.
Adam Gase, so it doesn't matter to me.
Extend Adam Gase. Go Seahawks. Yeah, the Seahawks are winning.
Yeah, Seahawks win this one. All right, so we were talking about this earlier. I think we already kind of alleviated to it. We had Colts Raiders. We both kind of picked the Colts earlier, right?
Yeah.
I think this is mostly due to how much the Raiders have cooled down recently. And, dude, almost listening to the Jets, like, the fuck. And getting blown out by the Falcons. Man, it's just. That is frustrating. And I feel like the Colts are just a better team than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of set our piece on this matchup, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And we set our piece on the next matchup as well, which is Washington versus 49ers. I think the 49ers are too injured. We really like what's going on with Washington right now. The defensive line's great. Alex Smith is finally getting his mojo again. The 6-3 Washington Redskins, I'm saying Washington Redskins because that's what they were at the time, were ridden by Alex Smith, and granted they had Adrian Peterson in the back, but like they had Alex Smith, guiding that team, and they looked really good doing it. I think that kind of offense has come back. The type of like above average quarterback play that's not elite, but it's giving this team an edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going Washington too.
Okay, so Saints manhandle the Eagles, right?
Oh yeah.
Cool. So we got a real shitty.
Put me in at quarterback and manhandling.
Hell yeah! So we got a real shitty game here. Do you have anything on the Chargers and Falcons? I feel like the Falcons just win this game. Outside of the fact that Young Hoku, by the way, is amazing.
Goat. Have you seen that video? That's why he's the GOAT.
Yes.
That's young Hoku to me.
I think
I know it's pronounced Young Hoeku, but he's Young Ho to me.
I think I looked last time. He scored 45 points in the last three or four games.
Insane.
And the Falcons, the rest of the Falcons offense has scored 41.
Yeah.
He has scored more than his own offense.
Right, it's funny because
this was the guy the Chargers cut, by the way. Young Hoku revenge game, Falcons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny. I picked up Young Hoku like 6 weeks into fantasy, 7 weeks into the fantasy season. I got eliminated this week, unfortunately, but
that's sad.
Yeah, it really sucked. It's funny because my team was absolutely stacked this year, and I think I was like the fourth best scoring team, but I also had the second most points dropped on me all year, and I'm 6-7 right now. So I mean, my team was pretty good. I just had shit luck this year, and sometimes that's just how fantasy goes. That being said, Young Hoku, fantasy GOAT. I'm still going to try and spoil some seasons this week. So
Hell yeah. That's what's exciting about fantasies. Even if you lose, you can say, all right, I'm going to fuck over that guy, that guy, that
Right.
in one of my leagues, I started 0-4, and I'm now 8-5. I've gone 8-1 in the last 9 weeks. I've done some magic with my roster.
Yeah, I only did the one league this year, so I'm done. I'm just going to try and spoil a season real quick.
Hey, man, that's how it goes. That's how it be sometimes. Packers-Lions, I'll give you the last two because the last two are exciting, and I'll take this one. I'm taking the Packers because even though I understand Matt Patricia, it was bad, they actually usually played Green Bay pretty decently, even if they choked it away. If you remember, the Lions were ahead for 120 full minutes in both games last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 120 minutes. That's 60 minutes per game, and the game is only 60 minutes long, and yet the Lions took 2 L's. It's such an insane stat. Such an insane stat, right? That you lose essentially at the buzzer beater, to use a basketball term, right? I think without that, because maybe Matt Patricia just knew what to do against the Packers, I think the Packers go full speed ahead and beat the Lions.
Yeah, not much for me to say about it. Lions aren't that good. Packers are one of the best teams in the NFC. Go Packers.
All right, so you got I'll never hear you say that again. For the last two, go Packers. So the last two,
I mean, Cardinals own the Packers' ass no matter what. So I mean, I don't really care for them anymore.
So the last two games I'm going to give to you because they're the most exciting ones. Take the Steelers and the Bills. Give it a go.
So honestly, this one was a really tough to pick. This was one of my toughest picks all year, and I really don't even know if I feel that good about it. But I did pick the Bills. And it's not that I think the Steelers are going to lose, but I just think they're beatable. And I think the Bills have a bit more of a dynamic offense. I feel like the Steelers' offense is very, very straightforward, but they just have enough weapons and they spread you out, and it's just tough to defend that many weapons. They don't do anything special. And then that defense is just monstrous. Like, the Steelers don't do anything special.
Yeah, they're just really well coached and a balanced team.
Right. And, I mean, hey, you're 11-1 for a reason. They're a damn good team. The Bills are also really, really good, and their defense is coming around over the last several weeks. And Cole Beasley, nobody's talking about him, but he's a key cog in that offense, and he's been really, really good this season, as well as Stephon Diggs. That running game's kind of been Josh Allen's been really, really great. This one was really pretty much a coin flip for me, but I'm going to go Buffalo. I think they have a bit more to play for. And I think I know it's the NFL, but I think if you have more to play for, that gives you an edge. So I'm going to go with the Bills.
All right, cool. I'm going with the Bills as well. I was picking the Bills no matter what. Even if they were 12-0, I was picking the Bills here. I looked at this schedule like 2 weeks ago when the Steelers were 10-0, and I'm like, Bills are a loss. That's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. You know what's funny is a year ago when we were talking about this, I picked the Bills to win this game, and they fucking lost just barely to friggin' Mason Rudolph. Anyway, so pain. So, or was it the other way? Was it I picked the Steelers and the Bills won? I don't remember what happened. Either way, I remember I did not pick this matchup correctly. I did not pick up this matchup correctly. Oh, it was the Bills that won. It was the Bill. Was it? You know, I gotta look this up now because I don't want to give false information on this semi-professional. Broadcast. So Steelers, Bills, 2009. Bills won. Okay, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was betting on the Steelers to win because I was all up on the Mike Tomlin train, which I always am. But so yeah, Monday Night Football, Ravens, Browns. What you got?
Oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings.
No, you won't.
I don't. And I mean, hey, I'm still picking the Ravens to make the playoffs, but honestly, I'm picking Cleveland.
Yeah, that's fair.
I know I know that the Ravens smoked Cleveland early on in the season, but I also think these are two very, very, very
extremely different teams from then.
Extremely different teams to then. I feel like it's not that the Ravens have lost their identity, but I feel like they gained a lot of it back against the Cowboys this last week. But in previous weeks to that, they lost their identity a bit. And the Browns have done nothing but realize what their identity is.
Run first team, play action.
Exactly. And they've been very, very good at it. And if this team still had OBJ, like, I can only imagine what this offense would be now for where this team is at. And they still got good weapons as well. That being said, I think this is going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to come down to which defense plays better, and I want to give the edge to the Ravens. But I feel like with how good the defensive line is of the Browns, that they're going to do a better job of shutting down the run game. They're not going to completely mitigate it because it's the Ravens' run game, and you're not going to do that. They're still going to get 150 yards on you. But if they can keep it from completely wrecking their defense and controlling the game, like basically what the Ravens did with the Cowboys, they're going to be in good shape. And with the way Baker played this last week, if he can continue to develop and to lead this team, even if they can't run the ball, not that they couldn't this last week, but if he can be that guy more consistently, especially if he does it against an elite defense this week, I don't know, man. Baker's getting better. So I give a slight edge to the Browns, and I'm going to go Browns this week.
So, funnily enough, I'm picking the Browns, and I don't actually think it's going to be a dogfight. I think what happened last year, week 4, where the Browns beat them 40-25, I think is what the score was. I think something like that happens. I think it's close in the beginning, and they just wear that D-line down for the Ravens as the game goes with the run game. And yeah, I truly believe this. And I understand Calais Campbell's in there now. Like, they've much improved this line since then. And they made some trades for Marcus Peters since then. Like, they have revamped this defense a ton since that game specifically, both throughout the rest of the 2019 year and this year. But Cleveland has stepped it up. I think Kevin Stefanski's gonna have a great game plan for what's going on here. So I'm imagining a high scoring affair. Actually, I'm imagining a 27. So not a blowout, but like a 27-35 scenario, where like the Browns are constantly ahead and the Ravens are trying to catch up, but in classic Ravens fashion, they can't catch up. If that makes sense.
All right. Well,
so I think it'll be entertaining. I definitely will. Of course, I'll be yelling and screaming for Baltimore, obviously, but I think Cleveland takes this one. Is that all we got?
All right. That's all I got.
All right, that's it from us. So we're under 2 hours. Good for us for being off a 2-hour break. So, off a 2-week break. So we'll make sure to flow it back into there. We really let ourselves go, but I'm kind of glad we did because we had a lot to make up for in the last 2 weeks. So again, sorry to us not being there, but hey, here's a 2-hour episode. We love you guys so much for tuning in. I love interacting with the Arizona fan base because it's we get a lot of right now. But I love interacting with everyone in general. Being on NFL Twitter, despite some of our complaints, is a lot of fun when it's people who want to just talk football, right? So appreciate you all so much for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And stay healthy and safe out there, everyone. You got anything?
No.
Alrighty, so that is it from us. We are the Head Couch Analysts, and we will see you next week.